Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel for another great eShop deals video. This video, we're going to be covering all the great deals that are $5-ish or less. So let's jump right into the video, and we're going to start with the $2 deals first. All right, first of all, we have Wild West crops, 50% off, reaching its lowest price ever, only $2.49. This is a mini Metroidvania. You play as El Gatito. He's a cat who his town has been taken over by mutant crops. I haven't gotten a chance to play this one myself yet, but I think I'm going to pick it up on this sale. I'm a really big fan of the subgenre of these sort of micro Metroidvanias, and I've heard some pretty decent things about this one. Has a really silly plot. I really enjoyed those pixel graphics, and so far, Ratalaika usually doesn't disappoint me with their releases. Also hitting its lowest price ever is Chefy Chef. It's only $2.49 right now. That's 50% off its original price. This is another Ratalaika release. I love Chefy Chef. I've been waiting for a chance to tell you about it. Speaking of mini Metroidvanias, this is actually kind of like that too. This is actually a sort of traditional platformer style game that is separated into levels. But what's unique about this one is every single level is like a tiny, tiny little Metroidvania. So in every level, the chef has 3 different items he needs to find to be able to completely traverse the level, find everything he needs, and then get out. So you're always looking for the knife, the frying pan, and the cooking hammer. These all work as a weapon and also as a means of new transportation. And ultimately, you need to collect the ingredients for your favorite dish and then get out. This is one of those super addictive games where you just constantly want to play one more level. I cannot recommend this one enough. For $2.50. This is, in my opinion, a must-buy for anyone who likes Metroidvanias or classic action platformer games. Next, we have Zombie Driver Immortal Edition, currently 87% off, only $1.99. It goes on sale pretty often, but this is the first time in a year that it's hit this rock bottom low price again. I don't need to go into super big details about this. It's a top-down action game where you play in different various vehicles, taking on zombie hordes and running different missions. It's been around for quite a while. It's not the greatest game in the world, but if you like a bit of mindless fun, you would definitely enjoy Zombie Driver. Whipsy and the Lost Atlas, currently 67% off, only $1.99. This is another one that goes on sale semi-often, but it has not hit this rock-bottom low price again in about a year. This is a retro-style platformer. The easiest way I could describe it, it feels a little bit like a Kirby knockoff, and that's a good thing. It doesn't have the copy ability of Kirby, but a lot of the action just kind of feels similar. You have a whip, and that's how you're going to be attacking enemies, and it also works as sort of a grappling hook style way of movement where you'll be making your way over different chasms while swinging around by it. It's real simple, breezy little fun, and I think for this price, this is where you want to pick it up. Super Chariot, it's currently 86% off, bringing it down to $2.08. Super Chariot is a very well-reviewed co-op game. It's really weird. Basically, this dead king has inhabited this chariot, and you and a co-op partner are taking this chariot through all these levels, making your way through really crazy sort of platforming, puzzling levels. Now, you can play it solo, and it's actually pretty decent solo, but this is definitely a game that really shines when played in co-op mode. I played this with my wife years ago. She probably doesn't remember, but we honestly had a lot of fun with it, and I definitely recommend it as a cheap co-op experience. Next, we have Far Lone Sales, 80% off for $2.99. This is a very unique platforming puzzle game where you are basically taking this sort of land ship and making your way across this desolate, apocalyptic, blown out old seabed. The story here is very minimal, but very much told by the environment itself, but it's very unique. You are this little guy, and you are manning this big ship, like I said, and there's all kinds of elements within the ship that you have to constantly be maintaining to make your way through this world. The game actually just had a sequel come out this year called Far Changing Tides. I think it's kind of interchangeable which one is the best. A lot of people actually seem to like the first one better, so for $2.99, I think it's a really solid pickup. Super Magbot is currently 75% off for only $2.49. This is a really rock-solid puzzle platformer where instead of jumping, it is all movement based on changing your magnetic polarity. So there are pads that when you change your magnetic polarity, you will pull towards, and then there are other ones that you will push against. So there's this constant challenge of changing your polarity back and forth to get through some really tricky platforming. Really great game, really underrated. I think a lot of people slept on it. I think you should definitely check it out for this cheap price. That's a Cow, currently 67% off for $1.99. I almost considered not putting this one in here, but I got to try it recently. I got a key sent for this one. It's definitely a mobile port, but it's so ridiculous and silly, and I found myself giggling like a little schoolgirl while playing it. It's just a little auto-running game where you play as a cow, and the only controller inputs are the way you tilt your cow and also bursting milk out of it while you splooge that milk all over everything in your surrounding area. So you'll be making your way through these levels, you'll hit that milk, and you'll angle your cow's body so it can navigate through puzzle, platforming areas, and also taking out little enemies. It's absolutely stupid, but it controls well, and it's actually pretty darn funny and made me laugh. So if you got room for a silly little auto runner, you would definitely enjoy That's a Cow. Kamiko is currently 50% off, only $2.49. This is one of the OG cheap Nintendo Switch games. It is basically a top-down game that kind of emulates the Zelda style of old school Zelda combat, but you're going to be making your way through various different arenas, just taking on baddies, collecting shards, keys to make your way further and further. It really is that simple, so there's not much more to describe. It's a very short game, but it does have 3 playable characters, and all 3 of them play very differently. And this is one of the few times where I actually did replay a game 3 times because I was enjoying it so much and I wanted to see how it would play differently. Bataloon is currently 70% off for only $2.09. This is by far its lowest price ever. I don't need to describe a lot about this game. It's basically a party game where you and up to 3 other people all take on the form of these little balloon animals, and you are bopping into each other in these arenas trying to push each other into spikes. It's a real straightforward party game. It kind of was overpriced because it is a bit bare bones, but finally this price brings it down to, I think, where it needs to be for that sort of impulse purchase for a silly couch party game. All right, so now we're moving into the $5 games. In this range, you're going to see games from $3 up to $5.99 is what I include. First of all, we have Clan Inn. It's a really solid little beat 'em up. It is currently 60% off, only $5.99. It takes the perspective of a pretty far up top-down perspective, so your characters are really little. I find that charming. Maybe that's not for everyone, but I kind of like games where you have little tiny sprites that you're controlling. It just makes the world feel really big. It doesn't do anything revolutionary, but as far as beat-em-ups go, it's a real solid one. You can have up to 4 people join you. Generally speaking, I think it's a bit overpriced, but this price, like I said, it really does bring it down to, I think, where it feels like a good value. Unravel 2 is currently $3.99, 80% off. This one actually goes on sale very often, but it's been a little over a year since it's hit this low of a price. If you're not familiar with Unravel 2, it's a really awesome little co-op game where you play as 2 little creatures made of yarn, making your way through some very realistic looking environments. There's actually a real heartfelt story that takes place through some imagery that you'll see in the background and sort of ghostly apparitions. Thankfully, you don't actually have to play co-op with this one, and it plays really well solo, so whichever way you go, you're going to have a great time. But Unravel 2 is a major gem. You definitely need to have it in your collection. Lost in Random is currently 80% off for only $5.99. Now, I hesitated to include this one because it just went on sale during Black Friday, but previously, before that, it had never gone below 50% off. So previously, it was $15. Now it's $5.99, which I think for full price, for $30, I think this is a great game. So $5.99 is just insane. A great little adventure game where you're making your way through the world of Random with your little pal Dice. You're on the search for your missing brother. It's got a really unique combat system that involves throwing the dice, of deck building, all kinds of great stuff. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game complete edition, currently 67% off for $4.94. One of the best beat 'em ups ever made. That's about all I need to say. If you don't have it in your collection and you're even a casual fan of beat 'em ups, you should definitely pick this one up. Just know that Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, I think, is a fairly difficult beat 'em up. I think it's meant to be grinded a little bit and build up your characters to be able to get through some of the harder later levels. And so, yes, it does have RPG mechanics, and you definitely have to lean into those to be able to take on those tougher later game challenges. Royal Frontier has hit its lowest price ever, only $3.49. That is 50% off. I love Royal Frontier. I've got a full video where I kind of dissect what this game is. I'll make sure to link to it. But basically, this is a Super Mario RPG or Paper Mario style combat game mixed with a roguelike and sort of like a board game. It's just phenomenal. If you miss the old Mario RPG or Paper Mario style games, this will definitely give you your fix of that, at least for the combat. Kung Fu Kickball has hit its lowest price ever, 70% off, bringing it down to only $5.99. I've wanted to talk about this game for a long time. I got a review key for a long while ago. I didn't think much of it for full price. I just thought it was way overpriced at $20. Basically, it's a mix of Smash Bros. Mixed with something like Rocket League. So you choose your little Kung Fu master, and you are going against your opponents, and you're kicking around this ball, and the goal obviously is to get it to the goal, which is a giant bell that you want to kick the ball into and ring for a point. It's really solid. It's just very bare bones. What you see is what you get. There's a few levels, a few different Kung Fu masters. It's very surface level, but it is fun. And I think at $5.99, it has finally hit the price where I can wholeheartedly recommend it. Rift Tracks the game. It's currently at its lowest price ever, 50% off for only $4.99. If you're a big fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000, Rift Tracks is the sort of comedy troupe that kind of spawned off. It's the same sort of gimmick, just sort of talking about the movies, but this plays like a Jackbox game where you actually play with your cell phone. So you'll see a movie clip, you get to put in the line that you want, and a sort of silly-sounding robotic voice will play your clip during that movie clip. So then everyone's clip will play, and you'll choose who you thought had the best option. It's just a super goofy, silly party game, and it's one of my kids' absolute favorites. You should definitely check out Rift Tracks. Shakedown Hawaii, 70% off for only $5.99. This is the sequel to Retro City Rampage. It takes what that game did and built upon it. It's basically a 16-bit top-down GTA game. Really solid. Definitely something that if you love a game that has a lot of retro homages and you love that old top-down GTA, you would definitely enjoy this one. And speaking of, Retro City Rampage GX is now at its lowest price ever, $5.99. I almost also thought about not including this one. This one went just on sale, like I think Black Friday, and it's a little annoying that just a few weeks later they came back with an even cheaper price, but you know, that's what happens sometimes on the eShop. But I felt like I need to tell you about it again because before these last two sales, it had been 4 years since there had been a sale on this game. So who knows if they're going to go back to that and not put it on sale again for many more years. I don't know. So now may be the ultimate time to pick it up, but you can also roll the dice and see if they go even cheaper. Oceanhorn, Monster of Uncharted Seas. This is a straight up top-down Zelda clone, and it's a pretty solid one. I've been kind of wavering on a long time about whether or not picking it up, but now it's finally hit that true impulse buy zone. 75% off, only $3.74, by far its lowest price ever. It's top-down Zelda. I don't need to say much more about it. Sid Meier's Civilization 6. At its lowest price ever, 80% off for only $5.99. It's Civ. I mean, if you don't know what that is, it's a big world-building strategy game. By far, its lowest price ever. It's going to be a big game, though. It's not something you're just going to quickly jump into. So if you're a complete newbie to these kind of games, you might be a little overwhelmed. But if you like this style of game, having it on the Switch is truly awesome. Light Fingers is currently at its lowest price ever, 75% off, only $4.99. This is a game that does not go on sale very often, and it's something that I've wanted to pick up for a long time. The basic gist of this game is that a bunch of thieves get together in their favorite tavern, and they sit down and play this mystical board game. And it plays on this magical clockwork game board. It opens up. There's all kinds of cool multiplayer, simultaneous board game action. And it's all just simply about securing more loot than your opponent. It's got some really solid reviews. I've been wanting to check it out for a long time. I'm a big fan of board games, and I especially love it when it seems like they've taken the board game kind of formula and really given it that extra bit of attention it needs in video game form. Hidden Folks is currently 70% off, only $3.59. This is basically like a black and white Where's Waldo, which I know doesn't sound very exciting, but everything on the screen is moving around. There's goofy little scenes happening everywhere. It's kind of like a really cool interactive activity more than a game. But there's all kinds of stuff you gotta search for. It's really just funny, humorous, and very relaxing. West of Dead, this just went on sale not too long ago, but it's back with its lowest price ever, only $4.99. That is 75% off. This is a Wild West roguelike where you are going to be taking on all kinds of crazy undead creatures in the Wild West Purgatory, and your main character is voiced by Ron Perlman. This game has a really nice high production value for an indie game. It's probably not going to be for everyone, but if you like a game with a solid cover shooting mechanic, I think you would really enjoy this one. Atomic Crops is currently at its lowest price ever, 70% off, bringing it down to $4.49. If you've ever played Stardew Valley and you wished it was a twin-stick shooter roguelike where you're taking on a bunch of mutants and crazy stuff, well then Atomic Crops has you covered. That's basically what it is. You get dropped into these areas. You're going to have to use twin-stick style combat, take on a bunch of baddies, and you're growing these crops at the same time, and then ultimately bailing out with your looted crops so that you can return, rinse, and repeat and do it all over again. Dandara Trials of Fear Edition. Dandara is a really unique platformer action game. I think it's a Metroidvania. I've never actually played it, but I've watched some reviews and it does look really solid. It's hitting its lowest price ever, 75% off, only $3.74. But the big gimmick in this is that you don't just move around, you sort of transfer from platform to platform, and it looks really unique. If you're tired of the same old thing, this definitely seems like a way to mix things up. Bad North Hotan Edition. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I think it's Hotan. Maybe it's Jotun or Jotun. I don't know. This is a really cool little strategy game about Vikings. It is currently 75% off. That's its lowest price ever, only $3.74. I have this weird little thing. I really love games that all kind of seem like they take place on a tiny little diorama. So like this game, and a game that's totally unlike it, but Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker, totally a different style of game, but there's something about games that let you feel like you're holding a little world in your hands, and I love it. But this is a really simple, easy to get into strategy game. I love the art style of it. I definitely recommend this for $3.74. Rogue Heroes Ruins of Tassos at its new lowest price ever, 75% off for only $5.99. This is a up to 4-player co-op roguelike game, basically mixed with Legend of Zelda, old school style Legend of Zelda. Now, it doesn't come together all as perfectly as those elements sound, but it is still really solid, definitely worth $5.99. It still has some really satisfying combat, and you also get to build a town up as you're progressing, and new, better weaponry and stats, and all that kind of good, wonderful roguelike mechanics. Yoku's Island Express. I have recommended Yoku multiple times on this channel. This is definitely in my top 5 favorite Metroidvanias on the Nintendo Switch. Currently, now at its new lowest price ever, only $3.99. You have got to buy this game. This is such an amazing Metroidvania. It mixes a Metroidvania with pinball. It doesn't sound like it would work, but it works sublimely. It works perfectly, and it's just so charming and inviting. There's really very little in the way of actual enemies in the game. It's all more about exploration. But the art style is all this sort of hand-drawn watercolor. Again, it's just super inviting, a world that you want to spend time in. Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, also now hitting its new lowest price ever, only $4.49. That is 85% off. You're probably already familiar with this, but if you're not, this is more of a modern take on the Donkey Kong Country Returns formula. It's really solid, really well done. What's the unique gimmick in this game is that you can actually go to the final level immediately, but it's so insanely difficult that what you need to do is play the other levels so you can earn the ability to take more hits in the main final level. So it's kind of a unique little gimmick. If you're a total masochist, you could definitely dive right in and try that final level and see if you could somehow learn how to get through it without taking hits. And not only is the Impossible Lair on sale, the original Yooka-Laylee is also on sale again at its new lowest price ever, 90% off, only $3.99. This is a throwback true to the old N64 style 3D platformer collectathons. It runs really well on the Switch now. I think, in my opinion, it doesn't quite capture the magic of the old N64 games, but for only $4, I mean, you can't get a better price on it, and I think it's definitely worth that. And finally, we have Sparklight, which is at its lowest price ever, 80% off for only $4.99. Boy, we've talked about a lot of games that mash up genres. This is another game that mixes the roguelike formula with a Zelda top-down game. But basically, you're making your way through the world of Geodia. You're in this sort of floating village, and every time you die, you go back up, and then the world shifts beneath you. And so you go back down, and you got to re-find your way through a new labyrinth-like maze of Zelda-style top-down levels. It's really fantastic. I absolutely love Sparklight. My only complaint is that it was done way too soon, which I guess is a pretty solid complaint about a game, that the fact you wanted more of it. But at $4.99, that definitely eases that quick runtime. All right, all you Switch fans, I hope you enjoyed these deals. Make sure you check out my main deal video if you haven't already. And until next time, I hope you have great gaming. Bye-bye.